Сьогодні відбувся перший серйозний з'їзд партії «Слуга народу». Такой вот з'їзд, да. Ничего не вышло из-за второй попытки, ладно.
Zelensky faces retirement Maidan. Ukrainians massively take away pensions or reduce the size of payments. The Patriotic March in the center of Kiev on Monday on the occasion of the Day of Defender of Ukraine and the next anniversary of the creation of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, which was banned on the territory of the Russian Federation, was pretty scared by the top leadership of the post-Soviet Republic. And then the authoritative KIIS, Kiev International Institute of Sociology, released the data for the first time, witnessing a drop in the rating of Vladimir Zelensky. So far, the president of Ukraine has lost 7% of his previous support. But if the process continues, 6 months later, Zelensky's popularity will be equal to the popularity of his predecessor Petro Poroshenko, which today, according to the same KIIS, is supported by 10%. A significant role in the disappointment with their recent idol was played, without exaggeration, by the plight of Ukrainian old people. Ukrainian courts are literally overwhelmed with pension lawsuits. The number of problem cases amounts to hundreds of thousands. The ECTA, European Court of Human Rights, has filed nearly such claims. Despite the fact that not every pensioner is ready to bear significant financial expenses for the consideration of his complaint in Strasbourg. Kiev legal scholars are unanimous in their conclusions. In almost every local branch of the Pension Fund of Ukraine, staff is oriented towards finding the smallest leads in order to refuse a fellow citizen to accrue money due to him by law, or at least reduce the size of the pension. There are also cases when a person is politely asked to return the pension already paid to him. The most favorite technique of Ukrainian PG workers is allegedly lost archives. Its effectiveness is explained by the fact that until 2000 the concepts of seniority and seniority were identical. Thanks to this, many of the pensioners have earned quite good pensions of 6 or even 7,000 hryvnias at present. They, having gone on a well-deserved rest, continued to formally be registered as employees of their enterprises, thus increasing their working experience. After Ukraine experienced several financial crises, they began to look closely at this category of pensioners. For the pension fund, such people are an obvious burden. An unfriendly attitude is also noticeable to recipients of the Chernobyl and disability pensions. The relative of the MK correspondent has received a pension for more than 10 years for the spouse who liquidated the Chernobyl accident. Then it suddenly became clear, somewhere, the data on the years of work of a man in the Ukrainian unit of KIIS had disappeared. Without them, the size of payments has fallen markedly. To restore the missing years, given the well-known deterioration in relations between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, is very, very problematic. During the presidency of Petro Poroshenko, a generally successful pension reform was carried out. Many categories of pensioners were thrown at 500, 1,000, or even several thousand hryvnias. But retired soldiers and former policemen, who received quite good money before the reform, at a dollar exchange rate of 8 for green, instantly turned into poor. The dollar grew 3.5 times, and their pensions did not increase even by 50 kopecks. Security forces pensioners with the ability to organize themselves often went to the Verkhovna Rada building in Kiev. After several protests, the Ukrainian government was forced to recalculate. However, in the treasury, an already gaping hole, there was no money to pay off old debts. People were asked to receive 50% of the amount, and the payments were divided into several parts. In any of the Ukrainian courts almost every day you can meet with a couple of dozen not only defending their pension rights, Chernobyl victims, but also former military and police officers. The latter, by the way, are being tried in some courts to send off, on the grounds that there are currently no police in Ukraine. If a person left before renaming the police to the police, recalculation of his pension money becomes a problem. At the end of the last government meeting, Prime Minister Alexei Gonchuruk was asked an unpleasant question: when, they say, will you start fulfilling the campaign promise of Vladimir Zelensky and free people over 70 years old from paying for utility bills? From the answer of the head of government it followed, neither himself nor the ministers had such plans initially. According to Goncharuk, all the people are number one priority for us, and we understand that it is hardest for them all. Alexei Valerievich did not dare to go further than stating this very understanding. Having promised only after the approval of the state budget for the next financial year, that is, by the end of November, to calculate how much money the state will have for 2020 in order to understand how to distribute them correctly. This very distribution of money will directly depend on the approval or rejection of the so-called Steinmeier formula, providing for the withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from the demarcation line in the Donbas. According to the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Vadim Prystaiko, the authorities intend to act in this way in the event of a disruption in the withdrawal of troops. We take a third of our budget from pensions, salaries, medical insurance, translate this into the mobilization of our army, and try to protect ourselves without a peace process. When it is not the profile minister, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who speaks about issues related to social payments, this at least is surprising. With even greater surprise, but on the verge of fright and indignation, the Ukrainians accepted the government as plans to impose the population of their own republic 33%. Most likely, surrounded by President Vladimir Zelensky, they are trying to encourage a loyal electorate to come out together in demonstrations demanding peace at any cost. Otherwise, the mobilization of all fit for military service with a simultaneous cut in the salaries and pensions of all who remain in the rear. Zelensky faces a difficult choice, either to abandon the Steinmeier formula and the retreat of Ukrainian troops deep into his own territory, or to raise people to anti-Maidan. To try to kill the impression of the day before the Maidan on the occasion of the anniversary of the UPA.